Zoom record. Great. Hi, everyone. Victoria Sutherland here, as I mentioned earlier. I'm with Forward Reviews, and I was waiting for my co-host, who's the review princess, Michelle Shingler, to join us because she'll have the bulk of the content to share with you today. We're super pleased to be here and want to thank our co-sponsors, Bowkers, for inviting us to this platform and give you some information about trade reviews and why they matter. This shouldn't take very long, about 30 minutes with some room at the end for questions and answers. As I mentioned earlier, we'll try to keep our eye on both. You can put questions in the chat, but we'd also like to see what kind of books you're publishing, what genre they're in, nonfiction, fiction. We also have a Q&A option in the Zoom call that we will answer those questions as well. So let me just get started here and move the slide along and tell you a little bit about what we're going to cover today. We'll talk a little bit about what the difference is between trade and consumer reviews. There will be some examples of trade journals. We'll talk about the timelines and editorial calendars and why these are so important. We will also get into some submission guidelines, what makes a good sell sheet, the importance of quality standards, and some suggestions for using your reviews as well. A little bit of background on us. We are from Forward. We're not going to be talking specifically about Forward the whole time, but we feel like we have the expertise in this area to speak about reviews because we've been doing indie press reviews since 1998, or about 25 years. Michelle is a former librarian and joined us 7 years ago. And she is now the editor-in-chief at the magazine. She, in addition to being a librarian, after UGA, went to Harvard and got her PhD. She brings a lot of a very broad background to the position, which is exactly what we get with indie presses too. So she's been a very welcome addition to our team. I will begin the conversation today talking a little bit about what the difference is between a trade journal and consumer publication. Trade journals are the business-to-business magazines for librarians and booksellers across the country. Forward is one of them. Publishers Weekly, Library Journal, Book List, Kirkus Reviews, School Library Journal are all of the top reviewed trade journals in the industry. Forward is a youngster compared to the others at 25 years old. Publishers Weekly is over 100 years old. School Library Journal, Kirkus, also long on the lifespan. But this is just a really key indicator of how important the review process is to the trade, librarians and booksellers who depend so much on the discovery of books. There's over 1 million books being published every year. Review journals give them a shortcut, so to speak, a trusted shortcut of details on books that are forthcoming, not already published, but what's forthcoming. A consumer, I didn't talk about the consumer publication. USA Today, New York Times review of books, The Atlantic. A lot of newspapers have reduced or shrunk their review sections, but those are all consumer publications who are doing reviews. And they are concerned about giving notoriety to the books that they think are going to trend after the book is published. So when you see a review in the New York Times, for instance, that is already available in a bookstore or by the publisher. You don't want to, and it's really important to get those trade reviews first so that the libraries and bookstores can stock those books based on our trusted reviews, and then you let the word out to the consumer publications. Trade reviews, there we go, serve a targeted, engaged readership of bookstores and libraries. They are really trying to, Michelle, this is kind of your bit, so I'll let you do it because you do it better than me.
No, not true, but no problem. So what trade book reviews are doing is a little bit of vetting for librarians and booksellers. We know that books shelf space is limited. We know that librarians also have a limited budget to work with. So they need to come to trusted trade book review journals to see what's coming out that they should really pay attention to that's going to serve their audience in very particular ways. So we do that work of sort of vetting books for them and letting people know this is coming out, you should pay attention, here's why it's interesting, here's why your audience is going to want to see it. We're looking for things that are both trending, that are going to serve people who are looking at particular genres that are growing, and that are also exciting that might not otherwise get attention that librarians and booksellers should stock. There are obviously objective reviews. When there are negatives, we mention them. There's always honesty involved. If we end up choosing a book for review that we can't recommend, that usually ends up coming out of the magazine because we want to let people know what's coming out that's great. We're thinking both about the authors that are big, so we'll cover a Tracy Peterson book that's a small press title that we know librarians are also already going to pick up, but we're also looking for people who are perhaps first-time authors who haven't gotten a lot of attention previously, and we're letting people know about them as well to get them on the shelves. So what's in it for you? You get a review from a source that librarians and booksellers trust. We've heard this from librarians a lot, that in order to pick up a book that they don't have previous familiarity with, they need to see 3 reviews from trusted sources. They need to know that 3 people who they trust have already looked at the book, vetted it, said, hey, this is something you should see, or hey, this is something you should watch out for these reasons. So you're getting that, you're getting into Bowker and other sources that librarians look to for all reviews in a row. So that's very useful, that database. You can use it for marketing once the review's out. We try to talk about books in a very dynamic way, and I know that the other trade review journals do as well, so that you can excerpt a line or two or even a word or two to let your audience know this is why the book is special. But that database inclusion is really, really important and something that is a huge benefit that cannot be, we can't speak about it enough.
I just want to verify that or confirm that or go into a little bit more detail about that as well. A lot of bookstores, most bookstores and most librarians will not buy copies of books individually from libraries. Maybe a bookstore for their local bookstore on consignment, but the goal for you is to get into the databases where librarians and booksellers shop. Ingram, Baker and Taylor, Bowker, EBSCO, Cengage, dozens more of these wholesale accounts that librarians are subscribers to are listing these reviews that we license to them. And so, for instance, if you have a patron in a library who is interested in a martial arts book, for instance, and their selection is bad, they may say to a librarian, boy, I've read all those books. There's this new thing going on in martial arts. They'll go to their database, call up the genre, the category, or even an author, and whatever is reviewed will move to the top of that selection process. And a librarian, as Michelle mentioned, will not order a book unless because they're publicly funded, more often than not, will not order a book unless there is a review that they can attach to it.
So here's a little bit how our book reviews work. I like to think of it as the reader standing up in front of an audience of other prospective readers, or in this case, librarians and booksellers, thinking on behalf of those readers, talking a little bit about the book, and then saying, here's what makes it interesting. Here's what's going on in terms of characterization or language, or if it's nonfiction, here's where the author is bringing expertise. Here's what is new on this subject that you have to pick up this book for. A review is doing all of that in a very short space. We have about 300 words in our magazine. A lot of the review journals have shorter reviews, but it's doing all of that work in a very compressed space. There's an art to it. There's kind of a dance to it. Reviewers try to speak in the book's own language, but it's trying to introduce the book in a critical and dynamic way. Entertainment's our goal too. I think ours are very fun to read, but all reviews should be fun to read. They should get you excited, or at least interacting with the book in a critical way. So here's how you get a review. The most important thing to know is deadlines. It's the number one thing that we have to get rid of books for. It's the number one thing you need to be thinking about when you go to send your book to a trade review journal for review. think far, far in advance. Think about 4.5 months in advance at minimum. That's a scary number, but it's a realistic number. For example, we just finished selections for the March, April issue. So right now, we cannot consider any book for coverage that's coming out before mid to late April. You want to find out when a particular journal's deadline is. You want to make sure that you're getting your book in within that framework, because the number one thing that we get rid of books for is this does not fit our time frame. We get about 1,200 submissions per issue. That's the first thing that we get rid of a bunch of those books for, is just that they don't fit our time frame. Librarians and booksellers want to hear about books far in advance of publication, so we need to work in a large time frame. Our reviewers get a month with each book. We have to do a review process after that. There's a lot that goes into it. So think 4.5 months. Follow-up is different for every trade review journal. For some of the bigger trade review journals, there are electronic systems in place where you can track your book via ISBN just to see where it is in the process. It's a little impersonal, but it's also useful. For us, when we select a book for coverage, we follow up directly and we just let you know that you have been selected for coverage. Please send a cover if you haven't already sent the cover, things of that nature. A PR agency is not necessary, but the benefit with a PR agency is they have connections with trade review journals. So they know the deadlines by heart. They know what features are by heart. They know how to reach out to whoever is doing the selections or whoever can prompt the person doing selections to say, hey, here's why you should pay attention to this book. So they have just a little bit of expertise that is useful. It's not necessary. If you think you can do it all on your own, that's completely fine, but keep that deadline in mind and keep tip sheets, which we're going to talk about next, in mind, because you want to make it as easy as possible for the person doing selections to know why your book should be in the mix. So what we're looking for, we mentioned deadlines previously. It's going to come up over and over because it's very important. ARCs, you can send a hard copy if you want, but Forward and a lot of the other journals are now working with digital more and more. It just got a lot easier during the pandemic. It's a faster way to work. So either a hard copy of the book or a PDF. We're delighted to work with PDFs. It does make things a lot easier, but it's not necessary. We're looking at a whole package. We've all heard the adage that you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. It's not really something that's very true with books. People do look at a book cover and make a judgment, and you do need to think about packaging, and you do need to think about how prospective readers are going to receive your book at just a visual level too. You're going to need to think about whether everything is perfect inside, not just in terms of delivery and style, but are there typos on your cover? Are there things? Make sure that everything is in near perfect form before you send it in, because we're looking for mistakes. We're looking for a reason to say, hey, this isn't perfect, because we have to trim our submissions down. So make it as perfect, as catchy, as appealing as you possibly can. With nonfiction, author expertise is important. I'm not a scientist, so when I'm looking at a science book, I need to know that the person writing it has some expertise in their field so that I can trust them as a voice on the topic, so that I can then recommend them to someone else. So for a nonfiction title, mention the author's expertise, make sure that's up front. We're looking for things that make us think differently. A vampire YA book is fine, but what are you doing that's new? What's the thing that's gonna make us think, hey, I've never seen that before? We're looking for that, hey, I've never seen that before. Something fun, something different, something that makes us want to read on.
Yeah, Michelle, I'm just going to deepen the conversation a little bit, because I know it sounds harsh to a lot of people that we're looking for reasons to cut books, but everybody needs to remember that it's our job to make recommendations to libraries and bookstores about the books that they should stock. So if something slips through that has a typo in the word forward in the first 4 pages, or the cover or the packaging is not done professionally, or the book isn't well written, that not only reflects bad on the publisher, but on us as a trusted source. And listen, you need all of us. All of these review journals need to be in business to make sure that books are getting bookstores and libraries, because without them, without the reviews, it's really difficult.
So pre-pub, we're just going to mention that again. We come out on a bi-monthly basis, and we give our readers a lot of time to work with books. I know that's true of the other journals too. A reader, you don't want someone who's going to rush through your book. You want someone who's going to sit down with the book, who is knowledgeable in that genre, and who's going to spend time with the book, think about it on a deep level, and be able to critique it on multiple points. We think that a month is a good time to give a freelance reviewer for that. It really allows the book to fit into their life and for them to return a review that is rich and interesting. After that, of course, there's an editorial process where we're going through to make sure that the review is clear, that a prospective reader or a librarian is going to be able to know, reading that review, what to expect from the book on multiple levels. So there's a long process that goes into it before we even send the magazine out to our librarians and booksellers who are still seeing that magazine and those books before they come out. So that's where the 4.5 months is. It's an important time frame, and it gives just a lot of opportunities to make sure that your book is being treated with depth.
I also, one of the greatest compliments that we get is when we hear from publishers about, you guys really got my book. You guys got, nobody really got it like you did. And I feel like that comes from because we gave enough time to the reviewers to read the whole, and people often say, there's no possible way you read that whole. Yes, we do not hire reviewers who do not read the whole book, and they have a job too to get done. So.
Okay, so now we're going to look at a few examples of tip sheets that were very effective for us in the selections process. What you're seeing here, what's effective here is there's information about the author, about why she's interesting, about why she might interest prospective audiences. We have the cover art right up front, which is important, and which, especially for a publisher who we're perhaps not familiar with or don't see a lot from, we need to know that we're going to be able to trust that the cover art is going to look professional. So it's smart to include that on your tip sheet if it's ready. Give us as much to work with as you possibly can. That box down at the bottom is extremely important. It highlights the publication date. First thing we look at, make sure that we can find that, make sure we don't have to hunt for that because we need to know it. It has the ISBN, it has information about the distributor, it has all of the information we need to know when this is coming out, that our audience will be able to get it and why it should interest them.
You can also see the crease mark in this, just a small point, but we don't need all kinds of stuff when you mail in the package. The book with the tip sheet folded and stuck inside is really all that's necessary. And if you're emailing, the email attachment and the book is an attachment with a little, intro email is also perfectly fine as well. Don't go crazy with folders and, zhuzh, material and things like that, because it's going to be tossed and waste of money and time on both ends.
Yeah, one efficient sheet is best. So this is another very effective one. This is a YA. You can sort of tell that from the art and from the type that they used. It makes it very easy to place it in a group of prospective YA selections. It's smart that they put the cover on there. That blue box at the bottom, again, is just an example of making sure all of the information that we need is right up front. They have a little good blurb about the book, about what it's about why you might find the story interesting. All that information is right up front. Make it easy for us. Don't make us hunt. This is one that we just covered. This was a crowdfunded picture book. One of the smart things they did was, because picture books, art is so important, they pulled some of the art out front. I believe there's something about the crowdfunding on there, which is also something that really interests us. We love to see a self-published or crowdfunded project come to us in a time frame that we can consider it for coverage. We love it when something like this comes across our desk. This was an immediately exciting tip sheet and book that we jumped on, and that ended up being starred in the issue.
That's me. Time to talk about fee for review service options. Just some backstory on Forward. In 1990, I think it was actually 2001. After 3 years of being in business, I had an editor-in-chief who was really bummed out about the number of submissions that we were getting. and the inability of our team due to paper, room and a physical product to their inability to cover these books. And so her idea was that maybe people would pay for a review. And so, I said, oh my God, this is going to go down like a lead balloon. And, but we thought about it, and the longer we thought about it, the more it made sense. So we announced it to the industry to also, like the lead balloon we thought it was going to be. Nobody could believe that we were going to be reviewing books without giving them a good review. I'm not sure why they thought that we would jeopardize the integrity of our publication by doing that, especially the trust that we had with the larger, chain stores and librarians across the country. But they're actually no longer the ugly stepchildren that they were. Most of the trade journals are now offering fee for review services. They're going through the same problems we are. We just, how many reviews can you fit into a weekly or monthly or bi-monthly trade publication? And there's so many books coming out, and you need a review. If you, my goal with this whole program was a university press or a larger publishing house would say, what happened last week to their publicity department? This book, and this book got picked up for review. Well, those 4 didn't, and we need a review. So just go get one, because, they need to get into the system. They're also written by the same reviewers who write for the publication. So they're the best quality. The same standards that we expect for the magazine are also for the fee for review services. And in fact, they're probably a little bit longer than the magazine reviews, because we only have a column in the magazine and we have unlimited space online. And again, most importantly, and worth the fee in and of itself, in my mind, they're syndicated to these wholesalers. So if you are just having the heck of a time getting your book available to librarians, that's not the only option anymore. We understand that COVID changed a lot of things, and you can reach consumers on your own through social media platforms and such, but you cannot discard or dismiss the value of a 300 copy or a 3,000 copy order from a library system in Chicago or Dallas for your book, especially if it's something that they haven't, they have patron requests for. So getting these reviews syndicated into the wholesale databases is really worth the investment in paying for a review. If you haven't gotten one, I mean, for sure, by all means, go after the regular reviews first. But a lot of times people don't even hear about trade reviews until well after their book has been published, and that's too late. So this is a really good opportunity for you to get into those systems. And it's 4 to 6 weeks after we get the book. So you don't have to wait for very long. Again, we have a star rating system. So it's 1 to 5. Most of the books get 3 or 4s. And if you do it in proper order and you do it before it's published, and we make some suggestions that would help you improve the book, there's an opportunity for you to make the changes before it actually gets published, which could be great, the savings. So in general, our advice today was to really make sure that you invest in the packaging, the cover art, the interior design, and editorial assistance. In fact, next week we're giving a webinar on editing with the Bowker team. So if you want to check that out, please join us. Danielle is really great. We recommend that you do your homework and learn about each journal before you submit something. Some of like Choice may only do academic books, or there's a big children's book section coming up in Publishers Weekly that you want to pay special attention to. Just everything's online now. The editorial calendars are online, and it really makes a difference. For instance, Michelle would never say this because she's a Southern polite lady, but we get books submitted for review addressed to an editor who has passed away 10 years ago. And that is just like inexcusable. It's all the information's on the website, and it should, it doesn't bother her, but it bothers me when I see that come through. If you can't take the time to do a little bit of research, anyway. To put together a succinct and professional tip sheet, those are like gold, and really recommend spending some time and even hiring a designer to help you for a one-off to get that done. You'll use it in everything before the publication date and after publication date, and they can be changed as things happen to the book. sales and for right sales and things like that. And finally, don't rush the process. You put a lot of time, maybe even years, into putting these books together, and then at the end to just rush through this without being thoughtful about what the industry requests in order for you to get the attention of the trade. Is important to slow down and do this professionally and with care, so that all the work that you put in at the beginning is not lost or overlooked because you just missed one thing. Timing is the primary difference between trade and consumer book reviews. We need it way in advance, and they'll take it after, even years after your book. If there's something political happening in the politics or current events that has something to do with your book, that's great for consumer publications to send to them. But having a trade review in your tip sheet, some blurb or quote, is really valuable. Now, fee for reviews like Clarion, Forward's fee for review, and other trade journals are a good investment if you've missed these deadlines or for some reason it was overlooked. It's not because it's a bad book that we aren't including you in the magazine. It's simply because we just don't have the print space available. So that's why this fee for review service is really great opportunity for publishers. Again, quality is always the key. We are not going to put our reputation on the line by pushing or recommending a book that isn't great. And you should really think about how being an author and being a book marketer, those two hats are pretty different jobs. And if you're not interested in the marketing part of it, you should hire a professional like a PR firm or a marketing firm to help you get the word out about your title. Here is Michelle's and my email addresses. If you have some questions that we don't get to today, and I see that there's some Q&As in there that we will get to next, please feel free to email us. We've got a busy week this week, but within the week, we'll answer your questions. You could also do Michelle at forwardreviews.com or M. Shingler, and I'm simply Victoria at forwardreviews.com. And Bowker wanted us to let you know about a discount that they're offering their clients. If you enter the promotion code SAVE NOW, you save 10% off the price of the review that they are offered, our reviews that they're offering. And this offer expires Monday the 19th at midnight. You have to do this at Bowker's website, not at Forward's website. That is a mistake that people are making. They're ordering a book review at Forward, and you have to do this through Bowker in order to get the discounted rate. So, Michelle, I'm going to call up the Q&As and see if we, what is included in a professional package other than manuscript and cover? I think you want the book as well. You would like to see a PDF of the book.
Yeah, if you can get it as close to finished as possible. So the internal formatting, we need to know that that's all going to be in place. If it's a nonfiction, that there's a table of contents, and just make sure it's as close to finished as possible.
One of the other things that maybe you did mention this, if you're writing a nonfiction book, be sure to expand that about the author information on your tip sheet. We want to know if you're writing a medical, advice book, that you have the cred to do that your background or expertise level is documented enough, because we want to make sure we're making recommendations about books who are written by professionals who know what they're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anne is asking, if you have an existing series, can you send in 3 books for a trade review, or do you want the first in a series?
So we have in the past covered books that are the third in the series when we haven't covered 1 and 2. What I would encourage for something like that is to include on your tip sheet a little bit about the previous titles, what happened before, so we can send that to the reviewer so they sort of know what to expect. Sometimes we just don't get the series early enough until book 3. That's actually, we're reviewing one in the next issue that is book 3 in the series that we saw the other 2, but not early enough to cover it. So they did well in our contest. We know we can trust it. We know the author. But the reviewer is going to have to dig a little to find out what happened previously. So don't make your reviewer have to dig.
Are there any specific requirements for books about art and the artist from anonymous attendee?
That's going to be the same as the rest with an art book. We're going to expect to see the art in the place that's going to appear in the book. So make sure we're going to be thinking a little bit more about the finished product. So make sure everything is aesthetically in line, and include information about the artist for the audience.
Tina is asking about if this is also applies to people who publishing Amazon KDP or any ebook only, and it doesn't matter to us if it's an ebook or a print book or a paperback. We all formats. So yes. Now, yes, your book will be uploaded to the databases of our licensees, but we also send along special instructions for Amazon publishers to how to upload their books. Amazon does not download our reviews. They don't take professional reviews a lot, or not ours. And so we give you instructions for how to upload those to your listing for your book. Can you clarify or give examples of the tip sheet for editors? I think that if Chris, are you an editor? So if it's a book that's being edited, how would I think that's what the question is. They're an editor, not the author. That's okay. I mean,
just so if you're trying to get the tip sheet down to the relevant information, ISBN, all of the metadata that we need, publication date, I would say a paragraph of summary, and then if it's nonfiction, make sure the author information's there. Also, if the author has previous awards or anything like that, include that. But think a page. People are getting this advice a lot. I think this also could be 10 years out of date, but I used to hear, make sure your resume is a page and not like 3 pages, because people need information right up close. So get it down to a page, be succinct, be concise, make sure everything is easy to find.
Also, if it's a collection of stories edited by somebody, so the editor of the edited by person, what would you like to see their background be? Like when they say the editor, if they've edited other collections,
yeah, it's basically that, or who they're editing for, like why they were chosen to do it.
Okay. I'm confused about the tip sheet. Does a trade journal send one to you complete? No, you need to send the tip sheet to the trade journal when you submit your book for review. The tip sheet is the sell sheet or the information sheet about your book. It's a 1-sheet information sheet that Michelle can quickly look at and say, this is great. I need to find out more information. And so she'll go to the book. Yeah. If she gets a tip sheet where the pub date was 2 months ago, she can immediately dismiss the book from the consideration because you've put it all in information. So Petra, the tip sheet comes from you. You need to create a tip sheet to submit with your title.
It's basically your book's CV, or yeah.
Okay, I think we answered this question about the series. Yes, we will do them. Do you have recommendations for those of us who jumped the gun? So that is the fee for review service that we're recommending. And also to watch editorial calendars or the current events, because people will pick up books if they're related. For fee for review would not include published books. It can be any book, published, not published. Fee for review is for any book, for people who miss the deadlines, for people who haven't published a book yet, for who, they don't want to wait. They want the review right now so they can put blurbs on the cover of the cover jacket before printing. Mm-hmm. It is for all books.
And it guarantees a review, whereas when you're submitting for review consideration, we can cover about 10%, period.
For printing, the companies you mentioned, anonymous attendee, I don't believe that they are printing. Those are just the wholesalers. So can't answer that question for you. Do you cover independently published novels? Forward only covers indie presses. That's all we've ever been about for 25 years is indie presses. So yes. Clarion reviews a paperback version of science fiction. Would it be acceptable to review a hard copy produced in 2024? Just send it in advance. I mean, I don't think we're doing revised editions. That's our kind of our line.
Yeah.
Unless it's been like 5 or 8 years
Yeah.
for, you know, 3rd edition or 8th edition. You can't do an edition every year, and we probably would not give attention to that. But if it's a pretty significant book that has a lot of revisions and hasn't been done in over 5 years, yes, we would consider that. Can I have a personal conversation regarding my books and your services? Yes, you can. Email me, Daryl. That will be better than Michelle. Is there any way for a book technically published on Amazon? Yes, there is. You know, you can be a KDP published book and be advertised in a trade or reviewed in a trade journal. We do not only review books that are self-published at Forward. We cover everybody from independently published books who do 50 to 150 titles a year. University presses who do 300 titles a year are considered independent presses. So that's our big challenge is author publishers and university presses like Oxford University Press who are doing so many, and everybody in between. That's what an indie press is. Yes, your only option with us, Katina, is a fee for review because we're working on March, April. I'm going to have to close this down because I know Michelle is going to a meeting, but I'm going to answer Jason's question. How quickly is an author notified if they are not accepted for a review? We do not notify. We don't notify you if you're not. We notify you if you are. Publishers Weekly has a tracking system. You can follow your book all through their selection process and find out immediately. It's online. We're just too small of a company to put that process in place. So my email address is victoria@forwardreviews.com, FOREWORD, like the forward of a book. And Michelle's is Michelle, MICHELLE, @forwardreviews.com. Please email us with your questions. We're happy to answer them. We appreciate your time. We know a lot of you did this on your lunch hours, and we're here to serve you. So have fun and happy holidays. And thanks again for attending.